And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley. What is up? We are back. Wes and Robert here. I'm tired. Surprise, surprise.
I'm sweaty.
That's kind of the way it goes.
Surprise, surprise. Yep.
Yeah. Robert has been running. No surprise there. He's been doing that for a few days now.
Couple.
And I got a 2-year-old who actually, it's so funny because I'm tired, and I think I'm tired because I took Tylenol PM last night. My son actually has not got up yet. So that's crazy because last, 2-3 nights, I've slept in 5 different places in the middle of the night with him. It is so crazy what he does. But he actually slept last night, so it was kind of nice. I don't know.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm still tired, though. I don't know why. Like, there's not enough coffee right now to get me up. I've had 2 cups of coffee, the Magic Mind, that stuff that's helps you get a little bit more energy, and I'm still trying to wake up. So there you go.
Yeah, that's kind of life. I have a friend who's, cutting her sleep short for multiple days in a row. And I said, you don't get to catch up, right?
Yeah.
And the effect is cumulative. So, it kind of weighs on you. Yeah. So you got to kind of get to sleep. Kids don't allow that.
No, they don't. And we'll get it figured out. It was funny. I posted something on TikTok the other day about how tired I was because of the whole situation. And one of my friends said, he goes, just enjoy this because it'll be gone before you know it. And I'm like, I hope so. I mean, like him in general is great. I love him. He's a great kid or whatever. But like this whole situation with the sleep thing has been kind of disruptive to my sleeping patterns, which is, at my age. And I know I'm not that old, but like, when you get so used to sleeping a certain way and you run your life the way you do, like I go to bed at, 8:30, 9 o'clock and get up at 4:15 every morning or try to. It's real easy, just like on Wednesday, to go, hey, Robert, I'm not doing this. I am too tired. There's no way I'm going to sleep till 5 because we're in here at 5 and going. And I couldn't get up. So.
No, totally understand. My grandson is, I think, 15 months. And wow. Yeah.
Yep.
Different sleep habits, different energy level. Gotta love it.
We got a good chat going on in TikTok. What's up, Lindsay? And Nikki is running in it as a admin in there. If you guys can tap the screen, share the live, get some more people in here. We've got about 11, 12 people in here. If you haven't seen us, we do this 2 days a week, Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. I always like to throw in the Eastern time because that feels like where everyone else is awake right now. So thanks for the follows and keep us in the turn that notification on. So we have been talking about Robert's book for almost a year now, or pretty close to a year now. It's Ars Victorious. Great book, What Makes Life Better. We talk about some of these chapters. Our chapter is Vision this Wednesday. We're about through the book. Robert, let's talk a little bit about that chapter and kind of about what's going on.
Yeah, I love the intro to the chapter. It said we should set our goals so high that it requires a different version of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. That is really spectacular when you think about it, because we always look at challenges from the standpoint of, I have the capabilities to meet the challenge. Mm-hmm. But really, when we get out of our comfort zone, we don't. We have to expand as human beings. We have to evolve to be able to meet the new challenges. And sometimes, especially the older you get, we get a little bit more set in our ways. We get a little bit more comfortable with being comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And it makes it really difficult for us to come out of it. So the chapter opens with me firewalking. And so everybody understands what that really means is it's a 20-foot long walk. It's basically hay and some other components in there that give the fire. You basically spray it down with a fire starter and light it. And your job is to walk through the fire. And so there's a lot of principles in there, physics principles, that do not apply because it's fire, not hot coals. And you've seen the hot coal walks before. So there's a principle that kind of keeps your flesh away from it, where there's this little invisible layer of basically bursting perspiration, right? But you don't have that in the fire. So the picture, if you go to the back of the book, you will actually see me firewalking. That is the picture that I'm talking about. And it is the ability,
little
blurry, but you'll see my feet are completely inside of the fire. It's actually wrapping up around my leg, and you can feel it. And on that day in particular, my firewalk was clean, but there was another friend of mine who lost focus about 2/3 of the way through, and you could hear his foot sizzle. In other words, like it was like a steak on it. You could hear him, and he came out of the back end of the fire going, ow, 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 right out the back. And it is so much about focus that you just focus on the ability that you're going to be able to get through it. And it does require a different version of you because walking deliberately into a fire is not natural.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's the whole point of getting outside your comfort zone, right? That what's really, truly valuable is outside your comfort zone. I had a very good friend decided to post a video today on beauty, and she took all the filters off, right? And she talked candidly about, aging and all that. And it's very tough because, as you know, right, aging is not kind.
Right.
Okay. But it's a different version of us that ages, right? Mm-hmm. And that we need to just, and she said to me, because we have a small age difference, 20 plus years. And she says, how do you adjust for aging? And I said, you just work the problem. I said, life is working the problem.
Right.
Life is never about actually reaching the solution. It is always working the problem. She says, what do you mean by work the problem? And I said, well, I adjust my running style to my injuries. I adjust to the weather. In other words, it's like being a pilot. You're constantly off course and you're always adjusting, right? And it's the same thing in life. You're always adjusting. And after a while, to be honest with you, it gets tiring. As a parent, you've been adjusting to your young 2-year-old, right?
He's not going to adjust to me. I'll tell you that much.
No, he don't care.
No, he's got no idea.
Yeah, but that's the point of vision and the idea of getting something in your head that you want and just keep adjusting until you get there. And one of the things that's sad about aging is I told her that she didn't understand that those wrinkles and all that made her more beautiful.
Right.
That aging was vintage, right? That was the beauty of accomplishment. That was the beauty of raising kids. And, that was something you kind of wore almost with a badge of honor. Look at what, I've kind of made it through the storm. I've made it through so many rotations around the sun, for lack of a better way. And our denial is that we think that we can get the things we truly want without evolving. We have to evolve. And that's what vision really is. Vision is not looking into the future and saying that that's what I want. Vision really is who do I have to be to go get what I want?
Yeah, and it's funny. We talked about this last week too, a little bit, where you were talking about how like you're kind of not lost, but like you're in that transition where you're like, what's next? What do we do? How do we get through that? And I think that a lot of people don't know that, hey, it's not the end. Like you have to realize that it's not the end. No matter what, you have to have that vision that you see what's next. You have a hard time when you get to the end of that line on that goal because you have to think about what you're going to do next. That's one of the things about being successful is you're never done. But sometimes you get stuck. Sometimes you don't know where to go. I think about that on a daily basis with myself because I'm so stuck in, I'm not stuck in my ways, but I'm like, it's like, what am I going to do next? How am I going to evolve this? Because I'm bored. I'm not going anywhere. I mean, the only way that I can get more is by getting more business. I mean, that's really it. Or starting my own or doing something for myself that will propel me to move forward. And it's just crazy. You have to be willing to change the shape of things, work through it, keep building, trying to find that way to keep going.
And that concept of evolution, of evolving, right, to the new challenge, right, the new version of yourself that has to show up.
Right.
West 2.0 can't cut it. We need West 3.0, right, for lack of a better way of doing it. I like the dictionary definition of vision. It's the act or power of imagination. Mm-hmm. It is literally imagining a future and saying, okay, this is a future where I have this, this, and this, or I do this, this, and this, or I love this, whatever. And then you have to almost imagine what version of you that would be required to get there.
Right.
Because if it was the right version of you now, you'd have it.
Yeah.
So that next version of you, and as we're sitting here playing football, I guess our buddy Tom Brady thought that the Miami Dolphins team looked really stacked with the quarterback going down with a concussion. That hey, I wouldn't mind playing for them, right? The reality is that you look at evolution, and did Mr. Brady evolve to being a sportscaster, or is he still a quarterback? Right?
He's gonna have a tough time with that. Like you kind of wonder like how that's gonna go. But at some point, you got to move on, and
right. You have to evolve.
Right.
There has to be a version of yourself where you're not getting tackled by 280-pound guys who are trying to drive you to the ground. I mean, there has to be a point in time where that's over.
Yeah.
I know that's horrible to say, but that's life.
But what's next? Like it's, and
right.
That's the kind of the thing. It's like, I talk to people a lot of times like you and I, and what I like about this is that we got the two different dynamics. I'm a little bit younger. I'm the Gen X. You're probably, you're baby boomer. We both have gone through this evolution of what that looks like and what it will be. But we know that when we get to the end, that it's a different situation. Like you have two choices. You can either, I watched my grandfather who was, before he passed away, he's pretty old. I think he was in his 80s. Still outside hoeing weeds, still outside working at the hardware store, still trying to find a way to stay in there instead of going home and just sitting in his chair and hanging out. Thank you. Gosh, dang it. So lost right now. We got the noblest queen in the house. What's going on, Brenda? Thank you for hanging out with us, and thank you for the gifts. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's like you have to be willing to keep going. And the moment you stop is the moment it's over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it goes back to that comfort zone thing that everybody, it's just easier to stay in that comfort zone. It's easier to stay in my bed. It's easier not to do something that causes me to evolve. Right. And again, I wish that the 40-year-old version of me was doing these morning runs. Okay. Yeah. Right. So why? Because the version of me now is tired. Mm-hmm. And in pain a lot, and that's reality. So I have to evolve my practice, right, to meet the current challenge. And all that is having for a vision that says, I want to be 80 and still running.
Right.
Okay. Now, what's that going to take? What version of me is that going to require to get out there and do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm going to work the problem.
And parameters change too. Like I think it's interesting because last night I was listening to Will Clark and Eric Burns. This podcast that I like to watch every Tuesday, and Will Clark, the gentleman that your friend got me a nice shout out from, which is awesome. They were talking about competition and how like the baseball players these days don't compete very hard. Like they're just out there trying to do whatever it takes to make themselves as an individual shine. They don't really care about the team dynamic. It doesn't matter what they do. They're out there for themselves. And I think about how baseball is one of those sports where it is individual, but it's also team oriented, because when you're at bat, it's just you against the rest of the team, right? Until you get someone on base, and then you have to think about it a different way. But guys are going up there looking for stats. They're going up there to hit a home run, and they don't play the game like they used to. They don't place the ball. They don't try to move the runner over. They just try to get the ball out of the park, and that's the only way to do it. And so they were talking about that competition and how these guys like today would not stand up against the guys in the 80s. And it's just like the same thing with if LeBron James played in the same era as Michael Jordan, would it be the same? We sit here and we go back and forth about how that looks, but they've made it easier. They've moved the bases, right? They were talking about. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about Ricky Henderson and how many home run or how many stolen bases this guy had, right? And today, how many would he have with an extra couple inches because the bag is bigger? It's crazy. Which spurned me to think about this Tom Scalinas article that I've read multiple times, and every time I see it, he talks about our life and how we constantly widen home plate for everyone else. If the pitcher can't get it over that 18 inches, well, then why don't we just make it wider so that everyone can get it over that 18 inches? It's the parameters. We change the parameters for people and we make it easier. Then we're not getting stronger. We're not getting better.
Yeah. That friend who got you the video asked me last night, why am I constantly being greeted with these challenges? And I said, so that you can grow and become stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people have to look at things the way they are. Life either happens to me, I am a victim,
Yep.
or life happens for me to strengthen me to grow, because the next challenge requires another evolution of me to meet the challenges that are there, right? So that I can grow and that I can have and be the best version of myself possible. And again, right, it gets tiring. I know that. I know challenges get tiring. I know that a 2-year-old gets tiring. But we know that a 2-year-old turns into a 3-year-old.
Right.
And a 3-year-old turns into a 4-year-old, right? We know this. So it's all going to be okay. And the idea is we just have to learn to be patient in the evolution.
Yeah.
And we do have this light switch mentality, and especially in America. I'm going to flip the light switch. I want change to be instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Well, change is not instantaneous.
Right.
It's not. And instantaneous takes time, right?
Yeah.
I spent 18 years trying to become an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what you hear so often from people who actually reach that pinnacle, because success looks like a hockey stick,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going along, nothing's happening, virtually nothing's happening. Then one day you wake up and you go, oh crap, I'm a success.
Right.
Right. It happened overnight. No, it didn't. I've been pounding at this crap for 18 years because it looks like a hockey stick. That's a reality.
Yep.
And so we're trying to fight all those things and trying to realize that, against that, we're aging. There's a great baseball movie you would know, For the Love of the Game.
Oh, I've seen that. Yep.
Okay, come on. That is probably the quintessential, we're watching this guy pitch a perfect game. And I had to try to put that in context for people,
Mm-hmm.
right? 25 perfect games in the history of Major League Baseball.
Yep.
That is a 40-year-old throwing a perfect game,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's amazing enough for a 40-year-old to finish a game.
And nowadays, yeah, I mean, it's nuts.
But again, sports is the ultimate analogy to life, right? Okay. Yes, you said that individual. So stat-wise, right? We're going to pick on somebody for a second. Dak Prescott just got $250 million for his stats, right? No, let's not be mean.
No.
He put up the stats.
Right.
But the stat that matters is W, right? Yep. That's the stat that matters. Your owner is not paying you to get stats.
Right.
He's paying you to get wins. He's paying you to get Lombardi trophies. Mm-hmm. And so there's a disconnect now. And the owners have to own this. Y'all idiots created this.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to own what you created. You're willing to pay somebody for not W's. What you ought to put in the contract is, here's the deal. You get half of your contract, and when you win your first playoff game, you get a quarter more of it.
Right.
When you win your second game, you get all of it. Holy crap. What would that do?
Yeah.
What would the competition look like?
That's the thing, is like, there's no challenge. I mean, we've handed you this just for that, and there's no reason to get there. And I think that's one of the deals about anything that you do. There has to be something that's going to propel you forward, because if you don't, you get stuck, and I think, like, I look at my competition, my sales goal, my competition is that goal. And I think that was one of the things that I asked them last night. I was like, well, what do you do how do you compete when the game is over? Right? Because for them, they're competing in a game all day, every day. Like, their number one goal is to win. How do you compete when the game is over? And they didn't answer my question, but I was hoping that they would, because I know what the answer is, right? Like, I know that when the game's over for them, the game's not over. Like, they're going to continue to keep doing whatever they're doing. Even though the number one goal is to win the game, they have that win the game mentality. And then they also have that I'm going to get a hit mentality. I'm going to steal the space mentality. What can I do to keep being better? How can I make the rest of the team better so that I can be better? That's that mentality that you see in these winning athletes. Michael Jordan made people around him better. LeBron James tries to make people around him better. Notice I said try with LeBron. I don't have a bias. You can't tell. But I mean, the reality is like Tom Brady, same thing. It's not just about those stats that he gets because he knows that it's going to take Gronkowski. It's going to take, Randy Moss. It's going to take these other people to be a key cog in that wheel to propel himself forward. So he wants to share his success with everyone else by making them better. And then he comes up across that's what people see as him getting mad at these people, but it's because he works up to that level. He works just as hard as they do, and he expects them to do the same because he wants them to have that fire like he has.
And so I happened to see a YouTube spot on Mr. Brady. It was the 100 greatest plays of his career.
Uh-huh.
And, other than, I don't know, probably 4 of them where he ran, right? Which was not many. Yep. 96 plays involved somebody on the other end making a pretty good catch, right? So in other words, he can't do it for himself.
Nope.
And in some cases, those pretty good catches, I watched Randy Moss do a one-hander in the end zone.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it was a perfect ball thrown, right?
Mm-hmm.
No question. But Randy Moss still had to catch it.
Yep.
Okay. Gronk had to catch it. I think in his thing on greatest plays, I believe he had 27 different receivers.
Yeah.
Okay. That in and of itself tells you something more about what you're trying to accomplish. Life is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
It just is.
Yeah.
And so you need other people to help. And if you sow into them positive and life, they give you the ability to sow back. Pretty simple stuff, but right. Life is a team sport.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that's, you just got to figure out who your team is and who you surround yourself with and how you build that. Because if you surround yourself with people who don't look at it as a team sport, and you're not going to have every single person on your team buy in, and that's kind of the tough part. I think that's really what it is like figuring out a way to make everyone buy in because everyone is different. What do they get out of it? How do you make them feel like they're part of that? And how do you continue to keep them challenged like you're trying to be?
Yeah. Life is about incentives, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just what are the incentives? They're negative and positive incentives. In other words, that what's going to make you move forward? What's going to get you up in the morning? What's going to get you outside your comfort zone? Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, a lot of times, there just isn't enough incentive for them to come out of their comfort zone. And I get that. I really do. And I'll be honest with you, probably 50% of the time, I don't want to come out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Right. But I have learned to do the things I hate.
Yep.
Okay. And maybe that should be the title of my next book. Learning to do the things I hate. Right. Because really that's what this is about. Because if you only had to do the things you like, how interesting would life be? Not really.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you got to do all those things that you really don't like.
Yeah.
But part of the equation.
Yeah, and I don't know what that quote is. I remember it's something about the comfort zone, but nothing gets accomplished in the comfort zone. Like you have to be willing to challenge yourself to do a little bit more. That's all there is to it. And even when you're there, doesn't mean that it's going to be that it's like I can't fathom what it would be like to just be okay with what I'm doing, like with anything in life. Like I can't fathom what it would be like thinking of as a Major League Baseball player. It's like 300 is pretty good, right? But I wouldn't be okay with that. Like I hit 300. What do I do now? What's next? I got to get to 301, 302, 303, everything that you can do.
Well, and the other thing that happens is that age thing.
Yep.
So guess what happens? You get older and slower. So guess what you're evolving to? You're having to evolve because you're like, I want to go from 300 to 301, but I've got a year older.
Yep.
So I need to get a little faster in some aspect of my game, a little smarter, a little better, right?
What am I going to
do? I have to compensate. Yeah, I have to compensate. What does it take? The reason why I named the book what it was what does it take to make life better? I didn't say perfect. I didn't say grand. I just said better.
Yep.
How do we get something a little better? Also, back to my friend. So we got into a little disagreement. And I said, you should be actually proud of us because we actually get into disagreements and we come out better than we went into them.
Right.
Right. I said, because disagreement is friction. And you can either use the friction to make you grow and to refine you, to polish you, or you can make that friction a part of something that fractures you.
Yeah.
I prefer to let it polish me.
I think Lindsay made a good point here too. Like, and that's kind of along the lines about what you're talking about here is like, and thinking about that, she's talking about, it's funny when you brought that post up because it just like, I have Instagram up here and I could see her talking and it was nice because there were the words were coming across the bottom. My brain doesn't want to think this morning.
That's okay.
But she had that and you could see kind of what she was saying. And I was thinking about it. And it's like, Lindsay says, caring what people think about you is a hard one. Getting to a point where you don't care, like that is very hard. And I think that I was listening to Stephen Amell talk about it yesterday on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast about how a lot of times when we get something that happens, we read the comments, right? Like we're thinking about the comments, we're thinking about what's going on and people on the side. And I think this falls along the same lines that she's talking about. It's like people look at me and I'm worried that they think about the wrinkles that I have. And you really don't, maybe they don't even care. Like I'm looking right now and I see gray in my beard, right? I don't even think about that when I'm walking around during the day until someone points that out to me. So does it really matter? Is it that big of a deal? I think it comes from within where we make a bigger deal about it in our mind because we are our own biggest bully. Like we've said before, we're the ones who pick us apart harder than anyone else. My son's pointing out a mole on my face and it's like, God, I'm really self-conscious about that stupid mole. But the fact of the matter is no one says anything to me about it. Maybe no one even notices it. No one even thinks about it, but we hear that and we're like, oh man. And we start getting hard on ourselves about it. And I should do this and I should do that. And my 2-year-old picked this up and it's just like, it doesn't matter. Are you happy?
And it's perspective, which is what I keep trying to explain is perspective as to what? Oh, I'm driving an old car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You could be walking.
Yep.
Okay. You could have a car in the shop all the time, spending thousands and thousands of dollars. Again, it's not about, everybody gets into this real grateful thing. So we're going to be really grateful for things. I agree. Absolutely. But a lot of people can't get grateful. And I said, you're right. Okay. Don't get grateful, but get perspective. Right. You've had better and you've had worse. Get real. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're in the middle of the range. Probably you shouldn't bitch. Okay. That's what it really boils down to. Right. Yep. Yes, I want to be in a place of gratitude. Yes, I do. But sometimes when you're angry and frustrated and trying to evolve, gratitude seems like miles away.
Right.
But perspective is right there. Yep. Right? It's right there where you can grab a hold of it and say, hey, I've got a change that I can make, and I need some perspective on this change. Right? Yep. And that's what we kind of lose sometimes. And that's why maybe the book should be called, Why I Do the Things, Doing the Things That You Hate. Because it's about perspective.
One. Yep, that's the next one.
God, what a lovely title, right?
Yep. So great episode. Thanks for hanging out with us today. One thing that, like we talked about, just, this is a great way to end it. I feel like, what is your perspective on those situations that you're in? How do you think? Is it woe is me? Or is it, hey, that didn't go the way I want it. What can I do to change it? What can I do to make it better? Change that perspective.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, everyone. The book is called Ours Victorious, What Makes Life Better. Go check it out. Head over to Amazon. You can pick that up. And join us every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll see you back on Monday, Robert.
Take care. Have a great week, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for hanging out.